Hey guys, so it is I Made It Monday, except it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. Probably Wednesday by the time this uploads. Sorry, the holiday weekend kind of got away from me and had me running pretty far behind, but real quick, we're going to take a look at last week's set. We did V-cuts and smile lines, so here are some of the results from the practice group. These ladies are doing amazing work. Also, it's not just about the practice sets in there while we look at these. Honestly, it's just turned into kind of a support group. You can ask questions about whatever you're working on at the time. It doesn't have to be about these particular sets, products, whatever. It's just really just a group of friends supporting each other. So if that's something that you need, check it out. We are going to be changing platforms because Instagram has a limit on how many people can be in the group chats, and the group grew really quickly and we ran out of room. So we're going to be changing to Telegram. I will be including the link in the description box. It's super easy to sign up. It's just a group chat messaging app. All you got to do, is click on it. It asks you to verify and boom, you're done. So V-cuts and smile lines were last week and everybody did amazing work. I ordered some different cutters, so we are going to be practicing with those again soon. Today we are working on ombre. That's why I have the nail stands instead of prepping the whole hand, So this is more on the artistic side than the technical skill side, so you guys know it took me forever to learn. I'm going to show you some of the tips and hacks that I used before I really got my technique down that helped me kind of get my technique down. So let's talk about what I got on the table. So when you're first starting and you want to do ombre, typically you see a lot of bright colors that just aren't blending well. So what I suggest are finding some softer colors, like your nudes, your whites, your cover pinks, things like that. They're softer, they tend to blend better. When you're using more intense colors, like say these, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. When you're using colors like this, it's a lot harder to hide your blend just because, and as you practice and get your technique down, you're going to be able to do that. But when you're first starting, it is super hard to hide this just because of the difference in colors. So until you really perfect that blend, you're going to see you're going to see a real stark contrast in the colors, and they're just not going to blend well. And that's really with any bright colors. Now, that's not to say that you won't be able to or that some people can't. It just, at first, it's so much harder to hide that. And I picked these colors because they were obnoxious and different from each other. Ooh, that was weird. And you typically can see the end of the other color through one just because. Get up there. Oh, I see. We chose violence today, huh? Okay, that's how it's gonna be? Gotcha. Anyway, I'm making a mess. So this is what I'm referring to. Other than my complete kindergarten mess over here. So what I'm referring to is the end where the blend should be. You can see every little streak when those colors are super different. So at first, I suggest starting out with colors that are softer and closer in proximity. You know what I mean? Like your pinks, your whites. Because you don't want to be like this. Okay, now that I've made a mess, let's talk about our whites that we're going to be using. While you're practicing, I suggest not using a super opaque white, such as Super White from Valentino. The reason I say that is because typically the other soft colors like your nudes and your pinks are not quite as opaque, so they won't hide that white, the end of the white. Kind of the same issue we just had with the red and the green. So you want to use something a little softer, maybe a little sheer, just so that you're not seeing that super stark line in between the colors. Now here I have natural, which is basically kind of like a foggy clear. And I have a sheer pink. Let me show you. So it's a super sheer pink. You can barely see the pink in it. Very see-through. The reason I like to use these, I use these to cap in when I'm doing ombre, and this one for pinks, this one's for nudes. The reason that I do that is because it really, if your blend isn't perfect yet, and mine's not, these really hide it and kind of soften everything so you can't see, you know, the streaks or, you know, the transition as much. They really, it's like a filter, kind of. And they help a ton. Honestly, I had so much trouble when I first started. I had to learn it backwards. I had to start with my top bead first and then work up from the bottom. I don't know why. That was just the easiest way for me to learn. So I am going to start. First, I'm going to show you the super white and show you what I mean about what happens with the very stark whites. So we're going to lay our white down. And I know I'm not giving a ton of instruction on the ombre yet, but I'm going to get to that real quick in just a minute. It's really hard to work on nail stands, like to actually lay acrylic. Ooh. It's one thing for doing artwork, but getting that brush in there is just obnoxious. Didn't have enough. All right, so typically your nudes and your pinks, unless you're using a color that's as opaque as your white, it's gonna show. It's not gonna cover it up. Typically your nudes and your pinks have a little more sheer quality to them. So even if you layer it pretty thick on the transition here, you're still gonna be able to see where that white ends. See how you can see that line across the back? Now you can keep layering over top of it and keep dragging, but for some reason I'm still always able to see it, and it gives it the appearance kind of like there's a lump there, even if there's not, even if it's perfectly smooth. And even if I keep layering it, what I end up with is a super thick nail and I can still see that line through it. So I like to kind of avoid that until I have to. Do you know what I mean? Like, that'll come. That comes with practice. You can figure that out later once you get your brush technique down. But in the meantime, I suggest using a softer white. And if you don't have one, just take your regular white and mix a touch of clear with it. If you don't have a natural like this, take a little bit of clear and mix a touch of white in it, and you can get both of those colors. No need to, you know, buy anything special for it. All right, so let's get started. So first we're going to start with whichever color we're going to use on the bottom, which for me is going to be this soft white. Now, you don't want the beads so wet that you got to chase it, but you don't want it so dry that you're just rubbing the other color over top of dry acrylic, because you still need it to blend. And make sure this back line that you're feathering it so that you don't have a really noticeable ridge back there. It's going to help your blend a lot if that just feathers up. Or transition, whatever whatever you prefer to call it. Now, on the nail, there's not a huge difference in these whites. I mean, there is a difference, obviously, but not a huge one. I suggest while you're getting your blend down, there's really no need to set up the whole practice hand and all that. You can just take some tips and, just work on that blend, kind of like on the nail stands. Just keep working on that blend. Find what colors work for you best, and then work from there. Now, we have our white laid down, so we're going to take our next bead of our top color, and we're going to smack it right down on top of that line. And we're going to make almost like a scarf. And then we are going to drag it down from one side to the other. Now, if you find that you pulled one side down further than the other, get your brush a little wet and you can just pull it back up. Which, gotta love having an eraser, I have to do that all the time. I just pull it back up and then I start over. If it's wet enough. If not, and you don't like how your blend looks, now you can always use your back bead and pull it down, or you can grab a small little wet bead of that top color and just lay it down on that line where your transition is. Kind of like a Band-Aid. Just to add a little more to it and fill in your gaps, if you have any. And then we're going to do our back bead, and when you lay that back bead down, don't be afraid to pull it down to your transition. It doesn't have to stop up here. And I know a lot of people can do this whole top color in one bead. I am not one of those people. What I like to do when I get that one up there is to pull it all the way down. Which, I mean, bead method, you should be pulling it at least to cover this one, but don't be afraid to pull it all the way down to here where the edge of it is. And if you still don't like it, you can always add a little more of the bottom color too and pull it up if you feel like it needs it. Don't be afraid of that, because you can't tell which way that transition's going once you cap it. So don't be afraid to, lay a little bit of that and pull that up. Nobody says ombre has to point down. Maybe I don't know why that has always been easier for me. And someone asked me how to do ombre once, and I showed them, and they're like, why are you doing it backwards? I'm like, I don't know. Because I'm backwards, I guess. Just sometimes that works easier. I don't know. But see, you really don't have to do it any particular way. Just find what works for you. Now, you can still see a little of my green tacky stuff underneath. Now, I want to show you how well this natural works. So I'm going to finish up this, this mess over here. So the natural and the sheer pink work like I said, like filters or like a magic eraser. It's awesome. So we see how awful this blend is here, right? Oh, we do. We do. All right. So so we're gonna take our natural to cap. What I like to do, you don't want too much of this or it's gonna cover up your colors because we're capping, and because it does have just a touch of white in it, you don't wanna lay it on too thick. I like to lay it right where that transition is and then work it back and forward. And make sure it's as thin as you can, you know. So you see what it did there? It just really blurs that line and really finishes it off really well. So I like to really thin it out right there. Lay it on that line, and then you can, you know, not everybody can cap with one bead. So you can add whatever else you need to, you know, on the back end or whatever. So see, it looks whiter than it actually is, but it's just clear with just a touch of white in it. Or even, you know, milky white with a little clear or whatever. But it really, really just, I love the effect that it has. Favorite. And we're gonna see just how good that effect is on this hot mess right here. See how you can still see that line? So I'm gonna get a big old bead of this natural because it's a giant nail. Again, I'm gonna start it in the same place. Like I said, if you're using the natural, I like for it to be a little wetter just so you don't end up with too much and end up with, you know, not being able to see your color. See, it even fixed that. There we go. Now real quick, I'm gonna do another one and we're gonna go over it really quick, and then I'm gonna show you guys some example sets, and you know, really just you choose. We're just doing ombre sets this week. However you wanna do that, if you are brave enough to do the bright colors, by all means, go nuts. I am not. So we're gonna start at the bottom with our bottom color. Blend that down. Work our bead down to the bottom, making sure that we're feathering that top so that we don't have a ridge. I know I talked a lot, so I just want to go over the steps really quick, and then I will show you the example sets. Then we are going to grab our top color and smack that bead right down on the center, right on that line. And then we're going to start on one side and work our way to the other and just drag it down. I make noises in my head when I do that, like yank, 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 yoink. And I just do, 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 do. I don't know why I make those noises. Probably because nobody's in here to hear me normally. All right. Then we're going to grab our back bead, and we're not going to be afraid to drag this one all the way down to the end of our top color so that, you know, it can help hide that blend, that transition. And then if we're brave, we're going to cap in clear. If not, we're going to use our natural or our sheer pink or our mixture, whatever we came up with, to help us make that transition as seamless as possible. And then we have our ombre. hate that green sticky tack. I wish they made like a, you know, a different color, but none of them seem to work as good. And I can still see it and I don't like that. So I'm gonna cover it up real quick. And I just, for ombre, I just recommend wetter beads. It just seems to, it's really hard to ombre with dry beads. Which means you're gonna probably chase a little bit, but. And then remember, if your blend isn't how you want it, don't be afraid to add to that center piece or to the transition line. Just a little bit. Just kind of dab it across. Pull down what you need and pull the rest up. And also, don't be afraid to erase it. Also, don't be afraid to work backwards. Nothing wrong with that. All right, so these are our example sets. Go ahead and take a look at them. If you want to do these, great. If not, I'm going to use this sheer pink for this one. If you want to use these, great. If not, you know, come up with whatever you want to do. See, even the sheer pink works. Even on nude, it's very crazy. It works like a concealer or a filter. There we go. All right, guys, so I will leave the Telegram link down below. We are doing the Nail Addict, and I got June's mystery pack from House of Supplies, and I have Susie from Nail Career Education's odorless monomer and acrylic. We're going to see what that's really all about this week. So I will see you guys in the study group, and as always, thanks for watching.